Hi, my name is Lizzie Andrasik. I'm currently a senior at Blue Valley High School, and I'm also in the CAPS program for teacher education. Next year, I plan to go to K-State to major in elementary education and a minor in math. After I experience teaching in the classroom, I would like to go back to college and get my master's in education to become an elementary school principal. Next, I'm going to go into my philosophy of education and explain a little bit about that. So, teaching is kind of like starting to date somebody. You're kind of nervous at first and you don't know what to say or what to do or what to wear, how to react, but the next few dates you start to open up, and that's kind of like the next few years of teaching. As you get more experience in the classroom, you kind of start to make connections with students and become a great teacher. Um, I think that students should always have a safe place to learn in, and that students should always encourage creativity in the classroom. And I guess the reason I became a teacher or want to become a teacher is because of my mom and seeing how the kids react to her and how much they love her and how involved she is in their learning. And the next thing I'm going to show you is my resume, and I'm kind of going to go over that. So my objective is to provide and create a safe learning environment for students. Um, I worked at Kansas Sampler as a sales associate from August to November of last year. And right now I'm actually in the Bricks for Kids program, which is an after-school program for elementary school students to actually build Legos. So they have like astronomy or like you can make the Mars rover, the spacecrafts, all of those. And some things that I did over the year was I was a national conference presenter, and I am in the Future Educators Association. So my next thing I'm going to talk about is my observations. So for my first part of the internship, for the internship, I partnered with Mrs. McGrew. She is a third grade teacher at Harmony, and I had observed her classroom in first semester at CAPS, and I really liked the students, and I loved the teacher and how she managed the classroom. So I thought I had a lot to learn from her. And my mom was actually a long-term sub in the first part of the year at Harmony in third grade, so she told me good things about them. For my second partnership, I went to Mrs. Zahner's fourth grade class, and I thought it was the next step up from third grade, and since I love third grade, I thought I would try it out. I heard her students were kind of tough, so I thought it would be a good learning experience. And my mom was also a long-term sub in the fourth grade, and I had heard a lot of good things about Ms. Zahner, so that's why I chose her. And this is actually a report from my first semester, first observation. I went into a seventh grade math classroom in Mrs. Perkle's class at Prairie Star Middle, and in Mrs. Perkle's class, they had 45-minute classes, and the students sat at two-person tables, and the tables were put together into two, and it would go boy, girl, boy, girl. She also had a bulletin board with advice papers from former 7th grade students of what to do and what not to do. And the kids would always have a lesson in their book to do every day that would go along with a lab that they would do, or an investigation. I noticed that Miss Perkle, during tests, she would put on the board that if they were to talk during tests, they would get a detention. And if they were to read after the test, they would get a little bit of extra credit. So that's pretty much my first observation. So I really like that classroom, but I couldn't see myself doing middle school every day and teaching the same lesson every single day. So that's why I kind of wanted to do elementary school, and I'm hoping to get more experiences with the older kids too someday. So these are my lesson plans from first semester. In this one, I read a book called Shark versus Train to the students, and it was kind of telling them, like, the shark has some strengths and weaknesses, and the train has strengths and weaknesses, and they might not be good at the same thing, and they might not be bad at the same thing. So they all need to adhere to their strengths and weaknesses. And I put a heat ticket on here, and that's kind of higher order thinking, engagement, authentication, technology, And the way I use technology in this is I created a Venn diagram on the smartboard, and I had the kids, throw out some ideas of what the shark was good at and what the train was good at, and maybe what both were good at. And my objective was that the student will be able to recognize strengths and weaknesses. And I read the book to them, and then I had them think of strengths and weaknesses that they all have. And I went around and I asked them, what's one strength that you have? And most of them were about like sports, or maybe they're good at math or something. So it was really good to have the kids talk about what they're good at in front of their own peers. And that's my first lesson. And my second lesson was for the students to learn what a sum and difference is, and simple addition and subtraction. And I had them go and take a Kahoot quiz, and then I actually showed them a brain pop video with simple adding and subtracting. And this is the one that I actually did for the class, so that was kind of interesting. And then my third lesson plan was one that I did in Mrs. McGrew's class. And this was kind of a predetermined lesson. It was with their math textbook. And the students would pull out their book, and they actually watched an introductory video before that they called a bridge, and it kind of goes over what they're going to be learning. And then we went over the guided practice section of their book, and after I thought that they had sufficiently gotten it, we went over they went by themselves on the independent practice. And then after that, if they had questions, I asked them to come back to the back table with me, and I would help them work on it. And then I also gave them a DCCR, which is a daily Common Core review, and it actually helps me understand what they got and didn't get with my lessons so that I could go back and make it better. And that's my last lesson plan that I have. And next, I'm going to be going over some forms that I thought were pretty interesting. And so my first one, we were supposed to research a tool that would help us in the classroom, and it's called Class Pager. And we actually use something like this in Miss Fry's class called Remind 101. But this is kind of, you can actually poll your students, like have them complete a survey, and like it's kind of like an exit ticket and a way to communicate with students, not in a creepy way, I guess. So that I like that one. And my other one was the do's and don'ts of classroom management. I found an article, and I read it, and it was like 25 tips from teachers. And I chose this because I wanted to explore tips that teachers had to offer for me. And this would range anywhere from greeting your students at the door to treating each day as a new one for all students, and not letting things that happened yesterday get in the way of what happens today. And I thought this was helpful for new teachers to understand that how to keep themselves under control, and this would give them simple but helpful stuff on how to do so. And I would definitely incorporate these into my classroom because I want to make sure everything's fair and have the same expectations for all. So the next thing I'm going to go over is media. So like what we did in the CAPS classroom that didn't revolve around going into the classrooms. So the first picture on the left, we were at Pittsburgh State for an FEA conference, and our whole class went, and it was a lot of fun. Morning and afternoon went, and we sat in on sessions and did a lot of cool stuff with future teachers. And then the one on the right next to the word media was in a classroom. Our friends brought in cheeseburger cakes, and that was kind of like a good bonding experience for everybody to have. And then the one right under the Pittsburgh State gorilla picture is me in the classroom teaching the kids about the shark versus train. And that's actually my students, and that was me at the smartboard with the Venn diagram. And the one to the right of that was my lesson to my CAPS class about the adding and subtracting. And then that picture on the very bottom left was in Washington, D.C., where a couple of the students, I think 6 students, went to D.C., and we presented at the National FEA conference, and we actually competed too. But that's when we were sightseeing, and we kind of got to know each other really well. And it was a really good experience. And then the bottom right is also at the conference, and that was after our competition. We had taken one of our projects that I'll discuss like right after this, and it was a service project, and we presented it to 2 judges out of probably like I would say 25 other entrances, and we sadly didn't win, but we we thought we did pretty well, so that's all that matters really. Um, so my first semester project, my mom is a teacher, but she's like a long-term sub. So I created an indoor recess game book for my mom's classrooms. Um, so I incorporated topics from math, reading, science, writing, social studies into the binder, and it has worksheets and fun things to do whenever they get bored and if they don't want to play with their friends in indoor recess. So that's what I did first semester. And second semester, me and a few of my fellow classmates, we partnered with Wayside Waifs in the Humane Education Program, and we created 3 different lesson plans on pit bulls and bully breeds. And we actually, at first, before we even started this, we attended a class about bully breeds that gave us the information for our presentations. We took the information and created 3 lesson plans on pit bull care, bully breed stereotypes, and dog behavior. And after submitting these to our mentor, we scheduled a date and taught 2nd grade Girl Scouts on May 7th. And it went really well. They really liked our simulation that we had for them. And that's all I have for you, so thanks for watching.